Okay, I don't know if this is working, but everybody here? Okay? So, funny story, you know, my last name is Spackman, but as I've been doing family history, it turns out that I have a pioneer grandmother, a couple of, several greats, that she was pregnant with my ancestor when she married Thomas Spackman. And just recently we did some DNA testing, and it turns out that Joseph Dean is the father of my descendant, and so I really don't have any Spackman blood in me. So call me whatever you want. Like you said, Dr. Larson had an emergency this morning, and so I'm going to hopefully have a little fun during his slides. I hope he forgives me for that. But I really appreciate Dr. Larson. He is a wonderful person, and it was fun to do this project with him. Just to start out, you kind of got an introduction, so I'm going to just get to that point. Continuing education is where I work, and a lot of people don't know what happens in continuing education. And so a few years ago, we had a group of students who wanted to do a video of what goes on in continuing education. And so I wanted to show that video, and if you're going into instructional design, you can critique it from a designer's perspective. But this is also a really good summary of what continuing education does. How do I get off the microphone thing? I was going to put it to this other screen. There we go.
What are you trying to do?
Get back to the tech podium.
It might be on audio right now. Switch to video.
Oh, that's cool.
Since its humble beginnings in 1921, the Brigham Young University Division of Continuing Education has sought to further the university's mission by spreading the education and spirit of the Y beyond our campus to encourage lifelong learning. In 2007 alone, nearly 500,000 participants enrolled in programs administered by BYU Continuing Education.
Our division has long been known for educational programs that extend the BYU experience beyond the boundaries of the university campus. But a major component of our mission is less known, and that's the support of undergraduate education. Many are unaware that most of our programs are centered on helping the colleges, the departments, and the faculty right here at BYU to engage in more effective learning and teaching.
When we began our study at the beginning of the year, we knew that evening classes made a significant impact on undergraduate learning at BYU. But honestly, we were totally unprepared for the extent of that impact.
With the support of International Vice President Sandra Rogers, the Department of Evening Classes conducted a survey for a 5-month period ending in May of 2008. Polling a representative sample of 5,700 students, the survey sought to measure the influence of evening classes on undergraduate education at BYU.
Evening classes had about 69,000 enrollments in 2007, and here's what we found. 96% of all students who take evening classes are enrolled at day school. And of all students who graduated in 2006, 98% of them took evening classes. And they didn't take just one or two. They took an average of 7.5 courses each over their undergraduate experience. This semester, fall of 2008, the number of unique undergraduate students taking courses through evening classes is nearly 18,000. That's about 60% of the BYU student body.
through evening classes, independent study in the Salt Lake Center, we're working to offer a BYU caliber day school type class at a flexible time. I don't think it was until I understood what the high percentage of students who are enrolled in evening classes, who are our matriculated students, was, that I understood how important evening classes were to the overall graduation achievement of our regular day students.
Our goal is to support the colleges in the outreach efforts that are most beneficial to them. These programs enroll about 50,000 participants a year. For faculty to try to coordinate these events themselves can be overwhelming.
It's a huge job to plan and administer these programs, and faculty just don't have the time to do it. So conferences and workshops takes over all the logistics, and faculty get to spend their time teaching, writing, researching, and working with students.
As part of the BGS admissions process, students study the aims of BYU education. Then throughout their coursework, they analyze each course. They examine how their experience is spiritually strengthening, intellectually enlarging, character building, and a preparation for lifelong learning and service. By the time they graduate, they have a very keen insight into how far-reaching and well-rounded their BYU education has been, and how much power it has to bless their lives.
We were facing two challenges in our department. First, we had the challenge with Math 97 that was using too many instructor resources, but we also needed a long-term solution to expand the capacity of the math lab.
And so basically we were able to work together to develop a strategy to meet their needs.
The scope of BYU Independent Studies distance learning program is well known. This year, we expect between 30 and 50% of all BYU Day students to enroll in independent study, gaining more flexibility in their schedules and accelerating their paths to graduation. To provide these benefits, Independent Study collaborates with departments across campus to help them resolve their unique problems and reach department goals. The BYU Math Department's success story is a good example.
First, we decided to make Math 97 a distance learning course, which allowed us to refocus instructor resources on other high-demand courses.
Along with Math 97, we were able to create a whole portfolio of distance learning courses offered by the Math Department, and that created a funding stream.
Then we directed those funds into the math lab and other student support services, which allowed us to expand our total support capacity. The bottom line is we were able to implement strategic solutions to both challenges.
The English department has a heavy service mission. We offer a lot of general education courses. We don't really have enough faculty resources to teach all of the courses that we have to teach to meet the service requirements through general education. And so independent study helps us to meet our commitments to general education, as well as some of our major courses.
As independent study helps departments realize these kinds of goals, we also contribute significantly to BYU's teaching capacity. It's estimated that about 12,000 BYU Day students take our distance learning courses every year. To accommodate that same teaching load without independent study would require some 60 additional faculty on campus.
I am currently a senior in recreational management youth leadership. I pretty much was in charge of the Grant Tiger Symposium with John Best being my mentor. It went totally hand in hand with my major because I got to plan an event that was huge. It was an insurance conference for different insurance agents in the western states. At the appreciation dinner the night before, there were several different people who all mentioned that they were impressed with my organizational skills, with my motivation, and that they would love for me to work with their companies. And since then, one of them in particular has approached me again with wanting me to work with them.
Clara's story is not unique. At any given time, the Division of Continuing Education hires and mentors up to 1,500 students in disciplines as diverse as accounting, graphic design, and dance instruction. Most of these students receive work experience that complements their academic majors.
The fact that Continuing Ed does a great deal of its work with student employees, ranging from student filmmakers to student auditors to student secretaries, in an environment where people are committed to the gospel, where they care very much about the reputation of the university, where they want to be helpful, work with people whose motivations are good, And I think continuing ed contributes to our campus community in all of those many wonderful ways for our BYU students.
With the addition of youth programs like EFY, adult programs like Education Week, and the excellent academic support provided by the BYU Salt Lake Center, the Division of Continuing Education makes a solid contribution to the mission of Brigham Young University. Our ongoing objective is to advance undergraduate education, support university teaching, and extend the influence of BYU beyond her borders to foster lifelong learning.
Those are the students that helped actually produce that video. All right. So just a handful of other things. We do Women's Conference, Education Week, best practices in autism and religious freedom. These are professional certificates. Tiger Symposium, saw that in the video. The Academy of LDS Dentists, musical theater for the youth, the Art and Design Week for the design department, Mission Ready Camp, CHIP Camp, Habits for Life, and history camps, and ambassador camps, Vocal Academy, and French camp, dance camps, symposium for bricks for young leaders, ACT, Bachelor of General Studies. You need to complete your degree after leaving BYU. BYU evening classes in the Salt Lake Center, EFY is probably some people familiar with, independent study, and Star Talk. So a lot of different things going on in continuing education. So I have a question for you, and the person who gets the answer closest to the right answer is going to get an EFY t-shirt. So how many EFY enrollments in the thousands do we have each year? Yeah.
Just throwing out a random number, 534,000.
That's the closest so far. It's not very close. That would be great.
I'm gonna say 50,000.
50,000? 60,000. 60?
61,000. 59,000.
It's our group. Guesses
Oh, yeah.
the distance.
From the distance, who has a guess?
40,000, 17,000, 33, 34,000,
Okay,
12,000.
someone saw that. Who did that?
Somebody's Googling.
They have the presentation slides.
They have the
so-
presentation slides. You're disqualified. Any other guesses?
17.
No. All right, who got closest to 33,000? Who's the 50? Who's the closest?
I said 50.
50, all right. This is from their lost and found. No, I'm just
I've always wanted a lost and found t-shirt.
Okay, so I'm going to do one more question. This is also worth an EFY t-shirt. Because this is about Women's Conference. So Women's Conference is usually the first week in May. It lasts for 2 days. And we have a very active Facebook community for Women's Conference. And during the 2 days of Women's Conference, we posted 150 times on our Facebook site. How many likes happened in those 2 days? Yeah.
15,000.
That's in the ballpark. Anybody have any?
23,000.
Okay, he's closer.
He lost.
30,000?
Okay, too high. 5,000, all right, I'm giving it to you. It's actually 6,165. Yes. So that's how many likes in those 2 days from those posts. They have a very active Facebook. So before we go any further, I need to set the stage. We need to watch. This was a post on the Independent Study Facebook site. It's a video that we created.
At the beginning of the semester,
I thought I was gonna die.
he did seem to have
Some problems.
stress and worried.
Everything's like. And then I met her.
Phone calls a couple times a week.
Pretty much daily. She's really great.
It's just been good for both of us, I think.
My name is Josh.
My name is Sarah,
She's my tutor.
and we met online, but it's not what you think.
So that's the sort of stuff that we post on the Independent Study Facebook page. This is what it looks like when I took a screenshot. At the end of January 2017, there were 140,000 followers. We do have students in every state and in 20 countries. And we put a fair bit of resources into our Facebook presence. And so I was asked the question, as part of my job, do our Facebook posts have an impact on enrollments? And with my job on the line, how would you go about answering that question? So I want you to ask your neighbor how they would go about answering this question. We'll take like 1 minute serious.
So by we go by name, look at what you so you'd have just I guess anybody who like everybody
And not only that,
but then assuming like how those like that
it's not these surveys where you sign up and apply. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you've got a good conversation here. Anybody brave enough to put forth an answer? Yeah.
So we had 2 ideas. One was to track, like if you had a link or something to enroll, like track how many people clicked on that. The other would be to survey the people who actually enrolled and just ask them how they found out about it.
Okay. 2 really good things. My answer to this question was to do a literature review. And I'm not joking. When I was going through the program, I thought literature reviews were kind of a waste of time. But actually, they're not. They can help you out a lot. And nobody's paying me to say that. There's a BYU librarian, Dr. Wadham, and she, if you make friends with her, she will actually do your research for you. She loves to do searches. And so I asked her, I said, hey, I have this question, what do you think? And she said, okay. And within a day, I had like 25 articles in my email that she thought I should review.
We have a representative from the library here who says you still have to do your own research.
Yeah. She will help you. If you're a person of high status, then she'll probably do it for you. But for lowly graduate students, she'll help.
Dr. Spackman here, right?
Thank you for that.
So what you're saying is get a faculty advisor.
When I was a grad student using her, and when I'm faculty at the library using her. Just a totally different league.
So she actually didn't find anything in the educational literature to help me, but she decided to look into the business literature and found a very big fish in this pond. And it was an article written by Kim and Co. in 2012. Yeah.
A question from someone at a distance. Dennis wants to know if you went the lit review route because you needed information before you could survey a group of people for the next upcoming enrollment.
Yeah, so the reason I went lit review is to see if anybody else had answered that question in any other industry or something like that. Trying to glean from everybody else who may have this same problem to try and find out if how they've solved this problem in that survey. So they wrote an article, Do Social Media Marketing Activities Enhance Customer Equity? And they were specifically looking at the luxury fashion brand, which is not exactly the same thing as an independent study, but it was promising. And so they had, I don't know if you can read that, but that says social media marketing activities and leading to purchase intention, and that's exactly what I wanted. And so my next step was to study this model. And so they used a bunch of sub-factors for each of those factors. And for social media marketing, it was entertainment, interactivity, and sharing. For value equity, it was quality, price, and convenience. For relationship equity, it was dialogue, transparency, and benefits. And if you think about your relationships, some of you may be married or engaged or dating or looking for somebody. If you think about your relationship, those factors make sense as well. You have dialogue strength, some transparency, and hopefully there's a beneficial relationship. So brand equity, awareness, attitude, reputation. Purchase intention was the person's ability to buy or interest in buying, and customer equity. In their particular model, although I couldn't quite figure out why they did this, customer equity was a combination of value equity, relationship equity, and brand equity. So they wanted to test that combined. So our model tested 6 hypotheses. And basically, they were, do Facebook posts have an effect on value equity? Do they have an effect on relationship equity? Do they have an effect on brand equity? And does value equity have an effect on purchase intention? Does relationship equity have an effect on purchase intention? And does brand equity have an effect on purchase intention? So in other words, does watching that video have an effect on your purchase intention? Now, how many people thought the video was entertaining? Okay, so we kind of hit the mark on that one. What about interactive? Not really interactive, right? And if you came across this post on your Facebook feed, would you have shared it? Anybody share it? Yeah, so with the 3 sub-factors of social media marketing activities from the Kim and Co model, we kind of hit on one. So that was kind of how I interpreted that video for us. So again, going to the next step, we wanted to create a survey. And since Kim and Co didn't publish their survey, we had to create one from scratch. And in order to test all of our hypotheses, we wanted to get information about the four super factors and the 16 sub-factors. Now, an interesting piece of this is quality. So value equity is price, convenience, and quality, but quality of a fashion accessory is different than quality of an independent study BYU course. And so we had to figure out, well, how are we going to measure quality? So I went to the accreditation process. So we're independent study, and BYU is accredited by the Northwestern Commission on Colleges and Universities, and they actually publish standards of quality. And so we adopted those standards of quality as our sub-factors for quality. So this is kind of how it worked. You have a super factor, you have a bunch of sub-factors. Each sub-factor we wanted to create a 4-item scale that would measure that sub-factor. So here's an example. For value equity, there's this sub-factor called quality student services, so we want to measure the quality of our student services. So we created 4 items in the survey that were on a 5-point scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And they were, I feel well supported by the BYU Independent Study staff. I can contact BYU Independent Study when I need to. I feel well served by BYU Independent Study, and BYU Independent Study responds promptly to my requests. Now, you need to have internal consistency when you create one of these. And so how closely related are these items as a group? That's scale reliability. This one ended up being 0.82. We measured the Cronbach alpha, and that was acceptable. So we considered that a good measure of quality of student services. Now the problem is, when you're creating a survey, you don't know what the Cronbach alphas are going to be. So this is the next question. How do you create 4 item scales for each of these sub-factors that would ultimately end up with alphas greater than 0.7? So ask your neighbor that question.
What is it?
Last year.
Okay, so anybody want to share? Yeah.
Pilot test it.
Pilot test it. Good idea. I like that idea. So that's what I did. I tested the survey items on a guinea pig. And I can tell what you're thinking. No, not a real guinea pig. No animals were hurt in the design of the survey. No, I actually did test it on Facebook followers of one of our youth camps. And as we got answers back, we calculated things and then made some tweaks because we weren't quite getting the scales where we wanted them. And that was an iterative process until we were pretty happy with the scales and we were ready to use those. Very important step, BYU IRB. So I submitted an application to conduct the study to the Institutional Review Board here at BYU. And they actually helped me fine tune some things and talk to me about how to protect the participants' rights and those types of things. So that was a good experience. And so here's an example of one of our posts. So once the survey was ready to go, we just posted to the Independent Study Facebook page. We obtained some funding to have 4 $25 gift cards available. And we received 168 completed surveys. So at this point I needed to admit something to myself, and that was that I needed help with statistics. Structurally equated models were kind of outside my realm of expertise. And so I talked to Dr. Ross Larson. Now, many of you, who knows Dr. Larson? He's taking a class with half of you? Okay. So so I'll just read this. Dr. Larson received his undergraduate and master's degree in statistics at BYU. He furthered his education by studying educational psychology with an emphasis on research and measurement at Texas A&M, where he got his PhD. He has worked as a postdoctoral researcher and researcher scientist at the University of Virginia and as an assistant professor at Virginia Commonwealth University. And the two defining themes that motivate his research are common methodological social science issues and comprehensive structural equation models. So ding, 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 here he was. Now I'm going to do Dr. Larson's slides. Ask Dr. Larson. Okay, so we took the following analytical strategy. When you're evaluating an instrument in a new survey, first thing you want to do is an exploratory factor analysis on half of the data. And this tells you how many latent factors explain the data. Unfortunately, you need at least 300 completed surveys to do this step, and we only had 168. So we decided to skip this step and go directly to the confirmatory factor analysis, which is obviously better than taking a composite average. It accounts for the measurement error better, and that leads to stronger effects. It allows the indicators to contribute differentially to the latent construct, and it gives the empirical information on model fit through what we call fit statistics. And we call it fit statistics because these are statistics that like to exercise. I told him that was a bad joke. Anyway, we treated the indicators, and this actually was quite a breakthrough for us. We treated the indicators as categorical instead of continuous. Because it wasn't, when we treated the variables or the indicators as continuous, we weren't getting good model fit results. And so the Likert scale that we used probably should be considered a categorical variable instead of a continuous variable. Anyway, so when we ran this categorical, it actually had good results. Now we did run into a problem with the Kim and Co model that we were using. We found that relationship equity, brand equity, and value equity did not have the discriminant validity that we wanted. And that is where those three constructs are apparently measuring the same thing. And so we really can't separate them. And their correlations were greater than 0.85. So we made a switch in our model. This is actually the model. I know you can't read that. But here's those three. And so we had to add this to combine those three in order to say, well, those three are measuring the same thing, so we're going to have one superfactor called customer equity. And superfactor, what would it say?
Just saying superfactor.
Superfactor, yeah. And we ended up with good fit. And what was fun for me was to watch Dr. Larson have these statistical things happening on the screen. And if you've ever done this, the computer takes a while. And these statistics take a while to go. And so you sit there and we're talking and there's like this drum roll going on in my mind. And like, is this going to work? And when it finally worked, it actually, it was a good moment. It was a statistical party. So this is the ultimate results of all of this. This was our structural equator model. So you have social media marketing having an effect on customer equity, and then customer equity having an effect on our two questions about purchase intention. And it all seemed to work out, which was great. One thing that I noticed about Dr. Larson, and I hope I don't embarrass him here, but we always started our work sessions with a prayer, and we were very open to trying to get at the truth of something. And we used, I used this scripture in my mind from the Book of Mormon that talks about, by the power of the Holy Ghost, you may know the truth of all things. And I do feel like we were blessed and read others that way. So, to wrap up, do our Facebook posts have an impact on enrollment? Well, we had a model with a fit, and once we had that model in place, I did go and look at the independent study specific data to see if we had a positive or negative effect, our current social media marketing, whether that had a positive or negative effect on enrollment intentions. I presented that to their management team, and I anticipate that they will be making, they'll be developing some strategies related to their Facebook posts and the sub-factors of entertainment, interactivity, and whether things get shared. We also wrote an article for the Journal of Continuing Higher Education, and that is, in general, it just talks about the model that we created, or we modified from King Coke, and that will be published in April. So, lessons learned. Again, make friends with the librarian, although...
I will clarify that issue. If you go to Rachel, she is the absolute best, and she will help you 6 ways to Sunday and back. And you won't find anyone better to help you with educational research.
But she may not do your search.
She didn't for me when I was doing my graduate, but she taught me how to do it. So,
yeah, wonderful resource.
One more than one fish.
Sometimes you gotta go get a whole bunch.
Now, when your job is on the line, you may need a structural equation model. Guinea pigs come in handy, especially when you test survey scales. Always seek help from experts, and you're probably surrounded by them. Truth is out there. Use all the tools, including prayer, and share what you've learned with your associates by publishing, presenting those types of things. So I think that's it. Questions? Any questions? Yeah.
What would you say, based on this, what would be like the most recent impact on like the Facebook posts? Like you mentioned some of the entertaining one, if you want to increase those certain things. Can you give us an example of how that actually affected it? Yeah.
You know, it's pretty new, so this needs to go through their processes to really get ingrained in your posts. But I think it's in general, you know, it's something that Facebook is interesting. All social media is kind of interesting in that if you do a good post, it's beneficial. If you do a bad post, it's actually detrimental. And so if you have bad posts, you lose brand, you lose trust, you lose interest and all that kind of stuff. So there isn't really an in-between. You don't really, if your posts aren't entertaining, interactive, and people aren't sharing them, and it's really it's like anti-marketing, giving yourself a bad name. So I can't give you an example so far, but yeah, there's another hand.
Oh, that was a similar question, so.
Similar question. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Let's give John a hand.